Okay, so we're ready to display a profile image and upload a profile image for the users who are logged in. And we're going to write the logic for this. Now, there's going to be two parts to make this work. First of all, we need to write some code in Next.js in the profile.js file in this profile page that will, under the hood, call an API from the pages folder, which we're going to name upload. Now, the upload is going to be uploading an image to Cloudinary. And then what we will store in Strapi is just going to be the public ID after the Cloudinary upload has finished. So this public ID is, think of it as a unique identifier for all the images that you have uploaded to Cloudinary. So storing that will allow us to then essentially display that image using Cloudinary again. So let's make this work. So I need to, of course, write the upload to client and upload to server handlers. And let's start with upload to client. And I'm going to say if event.target.files. So basically, if you have selected files, and if there is a valid file at least, so file 0 exists, so I'm just allow the upload of one single file, then I'm going to store the image in a temporary variable like that. And the reason why I do that is because I just want to reference that. And then I'm going to also create a state, and I will grab image and set image from use state like so. And again, I don't need all of that, just React. So use state and null. And then in here, I'm just going to call set image with the value of the temporary image. So that's one step. So this upload to client happens when there's an on change on the file input here. And then we have upload to server, which happens when someone presses the set profile image button. Okay, so let's go and write some code here. Now the way we're going to do this is by creating form data. I'm going to call new form data. So this is built into the browser. I'm going to assign the file to image. Now, where does image come from? Remember, we set the image using the set image state when someone selects an image. So image will have the right value here, and I'm just adding that to be called file. And I'm going to say form data dot append. And let's call this input file, and that's going to be the file. And I'm also going to append one more thing. That's going to be the user underscore ID. Now I need this user ID because I want to make sure that I associate the image to the right user. So in fact, the public ID is going to be the ID of the user. That's going to be the relationship between the Cloudinary public ID and what I store under the avatar field in Strapi. So we're going to come back to this because there's a way that we need to grab that user ID. And then we're going to have a try catch block here. Again, I'm just going to print something to the console, and maybe one homework for you would be to display these error messages appropriately. So in that try block, we are going to be calling the actual upload. So in order for us to achieve an upload, what we need to do is open up the API folder. We can actually delete, actually let's just rename this hello to upload.js. So this is going to be a serverless function that we're going to be writing. And the reason why we write this as a serverless function is because I want to leverage the Cloudinary Node.js SDK, which of course requires us to provide an API key and API secret. So traditionally you would put some code here in a serverless function that you don't want to expose in your browser, right? So if it has sensitive information like a secret, but you still want to execute it in a Node.js environment, then you can put all your code in here and just call it from your Next.js application. Again, I have talked about this in some previous Next.js video courses on Jamstack.training. I will also need to install the Cloudinary SDK for this project, because I'm going to be using that. So I'm just going to say import Cloudinary from Cloudinary. And I will also import, actually we need one more dependency. So let's do npmi formidable. Formidable allows me to basically work with the form data that I'm sending from the profile page. So it will be able to understand this data right here. So I need to import that as well. So I'm going to import incoming form from formidable. And we're going to do some additional imports in just a second, but let me just configure Cloudinary. And I will need to pass in actually, let me just copy this whole thing over. I think that's going to be a lot easier. So I'm going to be using a cloud name, an API key, and an API secret. So where do you get those from? Well, first of all, you need to add these values into your environment file, so .env file. So I'm going to do that behind the scenes, but just, add these 3 values or 3 entries with the appropriate values. And where do you get the cloud name and API key and API secret from? Well, you need to have a Cloudinary account. It's absolutely for free. And once you log in, you will have this information on your dashboard. So let me just show that to you. Here's my Cloudinary account. On the dashboard, you can see here's the API key. You can copy that. And there's also the cloud name, and there's also the API secret, which, it's masked for a reason. You should not expose this at all. So just make sure that you keep it as a secret. Okay, and that's pretty much it. And so now, once we have that configuration done for Cloudinary, we can also configure the formidable package. And we're just going to say body parser. It's going to be false. And now we can create our serverless function. So I'm going to say export default async function upload. And we have access both to the request and response objects. And what we'll do is say if request.method. In fact, I tell you what, let me just copy the code because there's a lot of stuff that we need to write and I don't want to bore you in this video. By typing quite a lot. So I just go through this. So we make sure that the method that this function receives is an HTTP post. If it's anything else, we just say that's forbidden, or we could say forbidden method. Okay, so we only accept HTTP posts. Then I'm going to grab the data from this incoming form and I'm going to parse the form data. And I wrap this around this new promise. Then I'm going to grab the input file path, which is, remember, is one of the form data elements that we're sending. So I'm going to grab that and I'm going to grab the file path from that input file. So that's going to be the full-blown path for the image itself. Then I'm also grabbing the user ID again from the fields, right? So that's where the user ID is, and we're going to set that in just a second. And then I'm calling Cloudinary v2 uploader.upload, and I'm going to upload the file, and I'm going to set the public ID of the file to be equal to the user ID. And then I am also grabbing the JSON web token from the server cookie. And last but not least, I am going to update the appropriate user. Okay, so what I'm doing is going out to /API/users followed by the user ID, and I execute an HTTP put statement, pass in the JSON web token, and update the avatar of the user who's doing the upload. Okay, and with the HTTP put, all I need to specify is the property that I want to change. And what I want to change is only the avatar property in Strapi by calling this particular endpoint. Okay, and I just send back something that, that was a success, or I could send the data back. It really doesn't matter. If there's an error, I'm just going to log something. Okay, so that's pretty much it. This will allow me to upload a file to Cloudinary, and then also at the same time, once the upload has completed, to go and update the Strapi dataset for the particular user and setting the avatar to the ID of the image that just got uploaded to Cloudinary. So the only missing piece now is where do we get that user ID from? Well, we get that user ID from right here in our profile.js file. And we need to call get ID from local cookie, which is a method that we have in libauth. But let's just, go ahead and see what that that function does, because maybe, we need to update that as well. So let's go into auth.js and let's try to find get ID from local cookie. Okay, we definitely need to do some work because this is just going to return the ID from the local cookie that we have, but there's no verification happening here whatsoever. So we need to do some changes again. So let's make sure that we actually grab the ID based on the token found in the local cookie. And if there is a JSON web token, we're going to return fetcher, go out to the appropriate endpoint, next public Strapi URL /users/me, and then pass in headers, content type, authorization, and then send the token. And then if this request was successful, then let's grab the data and just return data.id. So this is going to be a more secure way than just reading the cookie itself. And otherwise, let's just, return, return nothing really. Okay, so now we've updated this. So get ID from local cookie, again, just like before, returns a promise. So that means that in our profile, we need to then wait for this promise to resolve. But luckily, upload to server is already an asynchronous function. So we can just say await get ID from local cookie. And we're going to hit save. So everything seems to be in place. Now, what we need to do is also work on how we're going to be displaying the user image. Okay, so we say, okay, if there is an avatar, and that's the default avatar, then we're going to show the upload. And let's just do that right after this div. We're going to say if there is an avatar, then we're going to return, let's just return an image element with a source. And the source is going to be a link to the uploaded image in Cloudinary, which is going to be by default res.cloudinary.com /name of the account that you have. So that's my cloud name image upload. And I'm going to add a few, actually, let me not add anything now. Let's just add avatar. And I'm going to say alt, let's add an alt text here, which is going to say profile. Okay, and like so. Okay, so now we have this ready, and I forgot to close that line there, and we don't need that. Right, now you will notice that you get a linting error because we are using image, and the Next.js says, well, you should use next image instead to have some performance optimizations in place. Storing the image on Cloudinary will allow us to do a lot of optimization by default, so we don't necessarily need to use the image component from Next, although we could also just, so that you're aware of this, the image component in Next.js can be hooked up with additional providers, not just, the Next.js built-in provider. So you can build you can pull images from Cloudinary as well. But in order for me to not see this particular linting, I'm just going to say ESIN disable and disable this rule for the next couple of lines. Okay, so let's go back to the profile page. Now, what's really interesting is that we already see something here as an avatar. So how does that work? Well, what I set the avatar to is default avatar. Okay, and default avatar is being checked here. So if avatar is equal to default avatar, then I show the upload form, but avatar will also exist. And in that case, I just pass in that public ID. So how does that work? Well, if I go to my media library in Cloudinary, and if I look up something like the default avatar, I already have this asset uploaded to Cloudinary. So I'm just displaying this as a default fallback avatar. So in the try statement, now that we have the serverless function ready, we need to call that. So I'm going to say response await, actually let's call this response data, await fetcher, and go to /API/upload. And let's do this as a post request. And the body, i.e. the payload that we want to send, is going to be the form data. And then I'm going to say if data.message, response data.message to be more precise, is success, then I am going to call router, and I need to, of course, have const router is equal to use router. I'm just going to reload the profile path. All right, so now that we have the call to the serverless function, let's also just restart our instance, because we've added some new stuff to the .env file, right? That was the Cloudinary information. Something has just occurred to me, and I'm recording this video slightly later, and I'm going to insert it hopefully to the right place, is that when you work with the users and you want to send an HTTP put statement to update the user's avatar, just make sure that you come to your roles, click on authenticated, scroll down to the bottom, find user permissions, and you check the update checkbox here. And you can, you need to do this locally as well as in your Heroku instance once everything is deployed. So just make sure that you do that. And I think I forgot to mention that once you check that box, hit save, and then now you should be able to update the user with the profile image. Let's come back to our app, refresh this as well, just in case. Okay, so let's choose a file and hit set profile image. And let's see what is going to happen. All right, so here's our profile picture. Now, do realize that this is, obviously the same image that we have uploaded to Cloudinary. So if I go to the network panel here real quick, we will see that this is, let's just filter for images. This image is now image 28, which comes back as quite a large JPEG, right? Actually, this is a very large file here, nearly 4 megabytes. So we need to definitely optimize that. But let's just go to the content type manager as well. Let's take a look at Steve, our favorite user. And do notice now the avatar has been updated. And if I go to my Cloudinary instance, to my media library, I hit refresh, there's a new asset that was uploaded with the ID, public ID of 28. Okay, this is what we wanted. So now also notice that here, I'm no longer seeing the avatar, but I only see the image that I've uploaded. So how can we optimize this image? Well, we can optimize images in Cloudinary very, very easily. And just for your information, Cloudinary has a React SDK which you can plug into Next.js, but I'm just going to keep things simple for now. And I'm just going to manipulate this URL for our image. And I'm going to add f_auto, which is short for automatic format selection, qauto, which is going to reduce the quality of the image automatically without affecting the human eye, width and height of 150. Or, we could do, well, let's do 150, or you could do whatever number you want. Gravity face, which will automatically create a thumbnail crop finding the face. So the crop is going to happen around the face. And let's also put a radius max to that image. So now if I go back to the profile, look at that. We now have this wonderful profile image that automatically finds the face of that user. And of course, if I now go to the network tab and find this, 28, this is, where was that? It's only 3.5 kilobytes All right, we went from 4 megabytes to just 3.5 kilobytes. Again, wonderful Jamstack moment here. We're using an API of some sort that does a lot of things for us out of the box, and all we need to do is just install that, or in this case also just have the right access URL with the right parameters, and we have a really performant, great looking profile image set for our users. And with that, we have now completed our application, right? So let's just go through this again. We have the home component, we have the films page where we have navigation, where we can let people write reviews, and they can also we can also format the plot and any other bits and pieces of text really from Markdown to HTML. We have the profile page where now we have a profile picture, and then we can of course log out and register new users. So let's actually log in as someone else. Let's go with ABCD. I can't remember the password that I set, so let's just set ABCD1234 and save that in Strapi real quick, and just log in as ABCD ABCD1234. Okay, so now we are at the ABCD page. Notice this particular person does not have a profile picture, so we could upload a new one for them. And let's pick another film. Let's go with The Empire Strikes Back, and let's say something mind blown, I am your father. Spoiler alert. Okay, and then let's hit press or add review. Okay, so that person now added a review. So if we log out and log back as our good old buddy Steve, test 1, 2, 3, 4, just log in, go to the list of films, go to Empire Strikes Back, then of course we'll see that comment from the other person, and now we can say no. If you know the reference, you know the reference. If not, then oh well. And now this person added the comment or the review, and now both of them are visible in there. So that's our application, and in the last section for this course we are going to be deploying the application as well as the Strapi instance to their appropriate places.